Hi, good evening, Mr. David.
Good evening.
Great to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking your time to be part of Your Voice, Your Legacy.
It's my pleasure to be here.
So it's great to have you join us all the way from Vietnam. And again, this whole program of Your Voice, Your Legacy is where we connect with industry professionals, pioneers, practitioners who have given their life and years of experience and youth to the insurance industry. So could you tell me a bit more about yourself, Mr. David?
Happy to, Kumaran, and my pleasure to be here today. So my name is David. I have been in the insurance industry for just about 26 years. I started way back in 1995, fell into insurance, but I've been working in Asia, all around Asia, as well as in Australia. So half my career has been in Australia, and the other half has been in regional roles, as well as national roles around Asia.
That's great. That's 26 years, just about. It's
Yeah.
a long journey. But could you tell me about that narrative? How did you get into the industry? You know, it's a question of whether this industry chooses you or you chose it. So what's your story behind that?
Well, like many people in the industry, we sort of fell into it. I started out as a management trainee in Malaysia with Hong Leong, Hong Leong Assurance back then, HLA. And learn the ropes, you know, all the different departments from underwriting to distribution to marketing. And from then on, I went on to do product development work. And I also remember way back, this was in, well, I started in 95, but in 98, we looked at how we can do some online or digital insurance way back then. And this was before broadband, right? So going back many, many years. So we looked at simple products and easy to understand and having a good user experience at the time. So these are things that that even back then, you know, I think resonate today.
Yes.
I continued my insurance experience and work in Australia. So I went back to Australia and did my MBA and started work in Australia as well, working for a company there called Lumley. And I was the head of personal lines for Victoria in Tasmania. So that's what I did there. And we looked after a team handling distribution, handling our partners, you know, brokers, and so on. And then also doing claims as part of the structure there. And then from then on, I worked at ACE, which is now Chubb. And I went to Singapore to be the personal lines manager for Asia Pac with ACE at the time, Asia Pacific. So that gave me the opportunity to travel all around different countries in Asia. And to work in a regional role, which was, you know, a great experience. Subsequent to that, I came back to Australia and I worked with a company called Guild, and that allowed me to do a national role, handling both sales and operations. And just before I left, I did personal lines. So I headed up personal lines insurance at Guild and developed, some new products, developed an online platform together with the company, and really had a good opportunity to really create some interesting products and business models with the company. Subsequent to that, I came back again to regional roles based in Asia, based in Singapore, working for different brokers.
And that brought you, how did that then all of it link to your current role?
So I worked with JLT or Jardine Lloyd Thompson and then Willis Towers Watson.
Right.
And subsequently, after my time at Willis Towers Watson, I was the regional head of Affinity and Partnerships for Willis Towers Watson. And then subsequently, I joined Liberty, based in Vietnam. So I'm now the general director and head of distribution for Liberty in Vietnam.
Right. And that is such an interesting scene and atmosphere to be in Vietnam, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very exciting country. Lots happening.
So dynamic. I remember that my trips there back then, it was about 10 years ago, and I used to do some work in terms of financial literacy for the kids and the teenagers in Vietnam to get them to understand money and wealth in a different context. But it was such an experience for me personally, and I'm sure it was a paradigm shift moving from Australia and the rest of Asia into Vietnam.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I learned in working around Australia and as well as in traveling to different countries, right? I had the opportunity to work with colleagues all the way from China to Indonesia, Philippines, even traveled to Myanmar many times, Thailand as well, and so on, Taiwan and Hong Kong. So, and Vietnam. And I think the one thing that I've learned throughout my travels is that everyone, there are lots of different ways of doing things, but the core principles of insurance is the same, right? So the core principles are the same, and the core principles of doing the right thing for your customers, having the right offering, and providing good service and innovative products, right, to your customer base and to your partners. I think those resonate across all the different countries, and certainly here in Vietnam, it's very exciting. It's a fast developing country, and the insurance scene here is developing very quickly as well. So all those principles that you find in all around Asia, I think we definitely see that here.
It certainly is a very great hot pot for things to develop and grow, but it's also at a very exponential rate as opposed to other developing countries. I've noticed that. And have you seen that difference between where Vietnam was in terms of its view of insurance, both on the distributor angle and the consumer angle, to where it is today?
I guess, even through the pandemic, I guess, that obviously changed the way we do business and allow us to develop that digital strategy even further. But even before then, the Vietnam insurance industry has been developing very fast, right? And obviously, if you look back 10 years ago till today, Liberty's been at Vietnam for 16 years. And we were the first 10 years ago. Liberty was the first company to offer a digital solution where customers could quote and bind online, right? Back then, And obviously, we've evolved and continued to invest in our infrastructure and our digital capabilities throughout this time. But through this time, we found that the market also has developed, and there are many players now with digital capabilities, but also more than just the actual digital itself, creating the right ecosystem, right, and the right infrastructure to be able to serve customers well and to develop innovative products. I think those are very key things in any situation, I guess.
Agreed, indeed. And that's the entire pandemic in its own nature has sort of pushed us into a reset and adapt mode for that matter. And do you, Mr. David, if you don't mind, how does that then, the digital representation of sales, what kind of ethos or techniques do you think the distribution force can bring in terms of the emotional context? How can that balance out?
Right. Well, that's a very good question. So I guess, transacting digitally is a form of transacting, right? But at the end of the day, insurance is, again, depending on the complexity of the product, right? So some products which are less complex lends itself more to digital experience or easy to understand products that can be sold through a contact center and so on, right? Or embedded through affinity partners, right? So, but products that are more complex will always require, not always, but will generally require more interaction and for the intermediary or the partner or the insurance company to be able to explain to the customer, what the product's all about, what the features and benefits are, and so on. So if you look at the scale and depending of whether it's less complex or more complex, then the level of interaction and face-to-face interaction generally increases as the product becomes more complex. But regardless of that face-to-face, even from the digital perspective, you need to think about the user experience and the customer journey, right? And there is a human element in that because the human being is the one going through the journey. So you need to think about how, the psychology of the customer and how to take the customer through the process in a way that is easy to understand, and in a way that makes sense for the customer, and in a way that the customer is clear what they're buying. So the key thing is to make sure the customer is aware of what they're buying and how they're buying it. So that has to be prevalent throughout the journey. And making it clear, simple, precise, and something that is, easy to understand throughout the journey, I think is very important.
That's great, Mr. David, because that's exactly how it should be, that the entire process, as you have articulated, it's a standard procedure that advisors follow. It generates that trust and traction with their clients and policy owners. Now, Mr. David, Vietnam is such a country with a young population, and many of them have come to the light of the importance of insurance, again, on both sectors, as a distributor, as a financial consultant, or even as an agency leader, right to the end where the clients are becoming more receptive to the concept and idea of insurance, moving away from gold assets and everything else to the idea of an intangible product as first, but then it forms its own tangible need for the client and advisor. Now, how do you see this trend moving in the future, Mr. David?
That's a very good question. You know, again, I'm in the non-life industry. So from a non-life perspective, you've got property-related products, right? That relate to your property or your assets,
Yeah.
not your business. You've got, products that relate to you as an individual or for your family, whether it's health, medical products, or travel and things like that. Okay, and then obviously, from a business perspective, you've got things related to liability and marine cargo and so on. So if you look at making it tangible, you say, okay, making it real. I think one of the key things that that as an industry that we need to do very well is to ensure that the consumer is aware about the types of products that are available and aware about the types of cover that is available. So again, what I'm trying to say here is the awareness is very important, not just about that the product exists, but the features and benefits and what you're getting with the offering is also very important. So it is important for us as insurers and as distributors and intermediaries to make sure that the awareness that the customer knows what they're getting, right? And how it relates to their personal needs. I think that's also very important, tying into that personal need. So whether it's, for example, something as simple as health insurance, you might think, well, the customer may have different needs or requirements, and you need to make sure they understand what's covered, what's not covered. And in the event of anything happening, they are fully aware that what they're getting for their money.
Right.
From a business perspective, also very important, that the customer is clear on what they're getting, that it covers what they need to cover for their business requirements.
Right.
So I think that has to be very important, the awareness itself.
That's such a great way to put it, Mr. David. I think the clarity to put it out to the consumer and that awareness drive is something that everyone should strive for, even in the life or non-life business. And we need to see that happen more in this age and time. Well, Mr. David, thank you for that. And if you would not mind, but please indulge me, what are your words of wisdom, nuggets that you would like to share with the insurance community, not just in Vietnam, but in across the region as well, that can sort of amplify them and push them towards the right direction? If you could please most kindly share it with us.
Sure. I think the most important thing is do the right thing. I think, in whatever you do, as an insurance professional, insurance practitioner, do the right thing for your partners, for your customers, for your company, for each other. And doing the right thing means acting with integrity, doing the right thing, making sure that the compliance is adhered to, but most importantly, making sure that, whatever you do, it is for, it's for the right reasons. All right. And doing the right thing is very important. If that permeates through whatever you do, then I think you'll be on the right path. I think there's an old saying I used to have: if you walk in the light, you can sleep at night. So I think that's very, that's something that I usually share with my team as well. If you walk in the light, you can sleep at night. Do the right thing. I think that's something I would like to share in whatever you do.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. David. I think that kind of gave me goosebumps for a minute on the last part, because we do see the nobility of the industry and the vision that we have being part of this. And it becomes a calling for many people, but some of us tend to fall in love with it a bit late. So it's great words of wisdom for people to know and understand that it is about doing the right thing, right?
Absolutely.
And
in others as well, if I may share with you. One of them is, there are many, insurance is a people business at the end of the day, right? No matter whether we make things more efficient, we have digital capabilities, but at the end of the day, it's a people business as well. I think we should not forget that. The heart and soul of insurance is about people and doing the right thing for each other, and also making sure that we as an industry continue to develop and to be as professional as we can be. And one of the things that insurance leaders need to do is to continually look at bringing up the next generation through that, just as we were very lucky to have good mentors and people around us to help us develop, we need to take it to the next level and help the next generation to come up as well. So I think that's also incumbent on us as we develop to pass it on, our knowledge, our, our understanding and our experience, and to always remind people that this is a very much a people business, and not to forget the heart and soul of the business, which is what makes this industry super special, in my opinion.
Absolutely agreed, sir. That it couldn't be said much more beautifully, and with such poignant truth to it. And once again, Mr. David, thank you so much for your time. I'm very certain that our community will enjoy this session. It's short, albeit filled with power-packed session, filled with so many thoughts and wisdom that we know and we feel that the community will appreciate. So, Mr. David, thank you so much once again, and I would love to have another session with you again when time permits at your end, and to dig more into what you do and these definite truths that you have imparted to us today. So thank you, Mr. David, and looking forward to speaking with you soon again.
Thank you.